Welcome back. And today we are here with a new topic, and that is how to achieve super consciousness. It's been very interesting, especially to me, because I'm so much into this subject, and I've always been trying to know the human potential, right? Because once a person reaches the highest potential of himself or herself, this experience leads to bliss, and this is what is the motive of human beings. They just want to feel blissed out. They just want to stay happy forever, and this is only possible when a person has achieved the super consciousness. And super consciousness, but when I say super consciousness, I mean that they have reached the heightened state of their existence. Nothing affects them once they have achieved this,
Mm,
and this is only possible when a person is not affected by anything, right? And actually, I'm reminded of a story which is given in the Durga Sapsati, if you have read it. So
mm,
it's been said that there was a demon called Raktbija, right? So what the boon this demon had got, that he would, if the blood is spilled while he was being slain,
yeah,
uh, thousands of Raktabija would emerge. They would
yeah,
come into existence, and if those thousands of demons would be slain, then another, as
yeah,
many as were there, they would be multiplied in by
yeah,
thousands, right? So the Devi was in, you can say, on the horns of dilemma. She had to kill all those, and then she wanted to have somebody who can actually stop the blood from falling or spilling on the ground. So the Kali, she came from her forehead, and then she started licking that blood which was spilling from the body of that demon.
yeah,
And this is how, what I term the thoughts of a person. The thoughts of a person is just like the Traktibija. Once
yeah,
you start thinking, it multiplies, and then it becomes out of control. And if you have no control over your thoughts, it's quite impossible for a person to reach that height where they are without thought. It's quite, you can say, impossible for a person to think that their mind can become without thought, because generally the function of this brain is to keep generating ideas, right? Starts from the day when a person is born, and this ends when the person is dead. And during this particular journey, the mind keeps generating ideas. But if a person reaches this heightened state of existence, if they develop certain kind of perception, then the mind starts working according to a person's wishes. And this is what we are going to talk about today: the super consciousness, and how can this state be achieved. Whether there is any difference between the consciousness and super consciousness, we'll be talking about all these things. So, Robin, today we are going to talk about this special topic, and perhaps most of the people are in search for the ways which can help them reach this particular stage. Although people are willing to live a life which is going to be blissful, but gaining such a life is going to be quite difficult, because until or unless they have, you can say, they are able to curb their ideas, or their thought especially. And when you say that we have got certain kind of thoughts, like the thoughts are good and bad, I don't believe in this notion. I don't believe in this notion of having bad or good thoughts, because thoughts are just thoughts. They are neither bad nor good, because these are the labels which we keep, you can say, talking about. And thoughts are very fleeting. Once you start pursuing that thought, this turns into a person's action, and then this is something which makes people do something. But if you wait for a while, you hold on, and then the thoughts is gonna disappear, because
right,
thoughts are fleeting. They have no life actually. And today we are going to talk about all these things which can help a person reach that heightened state of existence, so that and they can lead a life which is free from miseries. right? Or even though people may have problems in their lives, but they will not be suffering from them. So yes,
Right.
I want, Robin, I want you to start shedding some light on the same. First, you'll be talking about this consciousness, as we talked in the previous video, and today we'll be talking about super consciousness and the difference between these two, and then we'll be talking about how can a person achieve this state where they are going to be unaffected no matter what happens in their lives. Over to you.
Okay, so good evening, first of all. And of course, this is such a nice topic. In fact, in this, current scenario, one needs to be a little bit educated about consciousness because people, when aware of the power of consciousness, I think they can do any possible things in their life. Moreover, their life becomes so easy, right? So, to be aware of a few things in our life, and one among few things is that the consciousness is all about. We come to know many things, right? So, in other words, I can say our life is gonna be so easy. It's gonna be so easygoing if we get to know what the consciousness is all about, how it functions, and if we can do some little more practices in order to achieve some some you know a great height, specifically in conscious, then we can say that we have reached to that point where we can live our life according to our own wills and fancies. So for that reasons, I believe that consciousness and the educations about consciousness are very important for today's generation people. Now, getting back to your question, I would love to initiate with this very first question as to what the consciousness is all about. And then we'll try to understand by distinguishing it from super consciousness, right? Have you ever seen? This is for my viewers. Have you ever seen people who are pretty much kind of wittiest, and they are one who always up in arms, and they are always ready, with rejoinders, and we always call them a great presence of mind in them, right? And they do all possible things impromptu, offhand. There is nothing like a task has been given to them, and they are preparing for it, and then they come out with a kind of resolution. But it's not like this. They are always impromptu. They are always offhand, and they are always like unprepared, but still they look like they are immensely prepared, right? So for that reason, I think we as a people, we need to understand that what makes these people so effective, what makes these people so uh, you can say, i mean be with that much presence of mind, how these people could manage to respond to those things and be responsive to those things which are absolutely unexpected. We are preparing ourselves for something which is known to us, and which I think becomes not very difficult task for us to manage, because for example, we know that this is the examinations going to be conducted on this particular date. So for that we are doing our preparation. So but there are n number of examinations, and these are true examinations. These are called the examinations of life. And when you are so much okay with your consciousness, when you are robust with your consciousness, when you know how to act upon your consciousness, then the life becomes and so easy, as I told you right in the beginning. So what happens is that when you have a consciousness, a great height of consciousness, when you reach to, you actually become so much united. You become united to almost all things around you. You lose almost the sense of when you say you are distinguished from other. So this feeling of separation, this feeling of disunity almost go evaporated. And this is what I always feel when I interact with people who hold consciousness. They are always very unique character, and their characterizations are much of a kind where we must study them. It's not very rare, but it's still we find these people in a very less number. we get enthralled by their kind of you know system, which we call this brain. But they are conscious, according to me, because they are very responsive all the time for 24/7. And what makes them responsive, as I told you, that they are almost very mature about how the consciousness works. And this is what is the power of consciousness. So if someone wants to know about what consciousness is all about, it may be difficult for them if they try to understand through the technical lesson of it, because at the end of the day, we only want the meaning of it, the very in a more facilitating mode, or in a facilitating manner, so that we could be able to apply this to our routine life, right? So consciousness is all about when you become so aware of all these things that is around you. Secondly, you don't see people are different from you. You always live with a feeling that you all are united. Now, one thing is pretty interesting in this very view, when people hold it, is that, for example, when you say everyone is united, it means that you are not going to be harmful to other, because this unity brings with a lot of hope, with a lot of kind of compassion as it develops within you, because no one wants to hurt people around them, especially when these people uh, just give so the thing which I was trying to say is that when you become consciousness, you are actually becoming so much united. And when you become united, you become so much compassionate, you become so kind, and you at least become innocuous to people, which means you are not going to be hurtful to people. And therefore you establish certain society around you where people live maintaining a certain values of ethics and moral, right? So therefore consciousness is something which can make you feel that you are living with the people as they are their own, right? And secondly, which I want to say in this, when you are talking about consciousness, we need to understand that consciousness is all about, as I told you in the beginning, that consciousness is all about uh, your being responsive to the things that comes to you, right? So this is what the consciousness is all about. Now when you are going to compare it with super consciousness, this was perhaps the second part of your questions, right?
Yes.
So, when you talk about super consciousness is literally a rare experience. I mean, I won't be hesitating in accepting this pretty fact that it is something which is hard to, perceive. It's palpable, but it takes a lot of practice. It's not just takes a lot of practice, but it takes a lot of disciplinary lifestyle. I mean, if you go and see and read some histories about Buddhist monk and the sages and the elevated priests, Hindu religions, and you will find that their lifestyle was so disciplinary. And when they practice specifically the consciousness, they actually try to detach themselves from the materialistic world in a way where they reach to that point where they become so numb, or I would rather use a word called impassive. They become so impassive to all uncertainties to them, whatsoever comes to them. So, for example, we common people get so much affected just by a slight cut on our hands, right? In a pen, right? In a pen. And then we start crying. And for example, how do we feel when our hands are burned, right? But these people, after reaching to the superconscious level, these people become so much impassive. They become emotionless because they are united in such a way. See, earlier I talked about what is consciousness is all about when you become united. When you become united, especially specifically with the universe, right? In the same way, when you are talking about super consciousness, you are becoming united again with the universe, but that is the transcendental you can say stage of your mental state, right? Specifically in this mental state, you are not even aware in a sense that what is happening around you, because you are delving into yourself like someone is drowning in a deep sea. and he's absolutely not getting bothered about what is happening outside the surface of the ocean, right? So that is what happens as a kind of experience people can have after they reach to the super conscious level. There is a video I'll send you, which is related to some Buddhist monk. And what is that in that video is pretty kind of gruesome, you know, videography or recording is made. And what is that? That a Buddhist monk is sitting in a circle, and around him are about 100 to 200 Buddhist monk, and this man takes 5 to 10 minutes to reach to that trance level where he goes submerged in his deep thought process. And then after 5 or 6 minutes, one of his fellows comes out, and he doused him with some fuel, like some inflammable substance, and thereafter he is burnt alive. This video is there available on YouTube, but with a certain kind of disclaimers. But this is not watchable video. This is basically kind of a very brutal sight or a vision a person can't handle and tolerate. It is unbearable. But what is interesting in about this video is that it teaches us what happens when a person reaches to super consciousness. So what happens to this man is that he is sitting in a one position, in a meditative position, and when he is burnt alive, he remains to be very poised, equipoised, not flinching an inch. For example, how do we feel and how do we react when we are burned? Even slightly, we almost jump, right? We almost cry. Yes, we almost like move our body in a way that it makes us feel that something has happened to us. But this man continued to be sitting in one place till he descends from his own positions and lays down and completely burnt away to ashes, and he is dead thereafter. But what is the teaching from us? It's not a teaching, but it is like the state which I'm talking about. How a person could imagine, you know, that what kind of super consciousness is all about, and how what could, you can say reach as a level after practicing super consciousness. Because when you submerge into your own thought process, that you are absolutely detached from the external world, and even something that happens to you externally, since you are into your deep thought process, you are not able to get connected with that external kind of sufferings. And even when you are dying, you don't know that you are about to die. So this is the power of super consciousness. So therefore I call super consciousness sometimes literally a very rare experience. But as I told you, it is nothing impossible. We have seen people around us, some sages and priests, and even Buddhist monks are very trained specifically with this kind of super consciousness, and they train themselves in a way where they remain to be unaffected with everything that happens to them and acts upon them. So they live their life the way they want, right? So this is what the consciousness and its difference with super consciousness. So over to you.
Before I start asking you something and before I discussing on the same topic, right, I would love to share something which I got to know about it because I'm really I've been doing it and I've felt it. So whatever I'm gonna share is really the truth about meditation, and this is the, I would say, medium which leads a person to that meditative kind of state, and then that is heightened existence, and I would say that super consciousness. So actually, our nature is although you've seen that people are now, some people are very unhappy, some are miserable, and some are overjoyed, and some are, we've got different kind of people, right? They've got different natures, but the true nature of our existence, the true nature of our soul is to be happy, to be the same in all kinds of situations. For
Blissful.
example, what happens when we go on a trip, and no matter how plushiest the hotels are where you stay. But back at home, when you are back after a long trip, or you can say a trip of 2 to 3 weeks, right? You come back home and then you smell that smell which comes from your home because it's been closed for quite some weeks, and you smell, and then you just go back, just come and sits on the couch, and then you stretch your body and say that home sweet home. This is what
Yeah.
a feeling is. No matter how wonderful that trip was, no matter how expensive that was, or no matter what kind of places we've been to, but the home is the sweetest place there is. So our this soul is always longing for that, and this is longing for that one source, that is the almighty, that is the supreme force of this universe. And the soul is always longing to be one with that. And this is why we should always be trying to reach, although it's quite not it's not impossible, it's quite difficult to reach that kind of stage, or that particular state, I would say. But we should always be trying to gain this kind of you can say state, so that we are going to live this life in such a way which can be called that it's a really a success. Because what I believe is success doesn't mean to amassing a lot of wealth. Success doesn't mean to have so many relationships. Success is all about being good to other people, being of a nature that people love to be around. And it's really going to help you to become very compassionate, kind, and you can say very loving to all the people. And this is only possible when you get to know your true nature. And the true nature of the soul is, I've already talked about, that is it is always blissed out, right? It is always happy. It is never going to be in that situation where it suffers a lot, right? So now what we're going to discuss is, tell me, what is the role of meditation and mindfulness in altering these brainwave states? Because it's if you go by the book, it's been written by John Jose Silva, and there he talks about different states of our mind. So there are three states. One is alpha state, the other one is delta state, and the third one is theta state. So if we are living in this alpha state, then we are going to be very super conscious, I would say. So he has also suggested different modes and mediums by which we can stay in one particular kind of experience. We can experience that state all the day, throughout the day. And this is how a person can attain that state, which is called super consciousness. So he also talks about these three states, and we I will be talking about that later in the later part of the video. First of all, what I'm trying to ask you is, can you tell me the role of meditation? Because he himself talks about meditation, although it's been from India, right? It has originated in India, but and he is basically from America. He is from, I think, Mexico City. Not sure about
Oh,
it. Yes, he's
right.
from there, and he talks about meditation, because all these three states of mind can be achieved only through meditation. And he also suggests the ways in which we can achieve it. So now, before I start talking about that, I want you to tell me the role of what the role of meditation and mindfulness is, especially when it comes to altering the states or waves, brainwave states. Sorry.
Okay, so before I respond to this of your questions, I would like to say one thing on your previous part as to what you have said, that we are eternally blissful and this is our real position, right? And this is what we have to retain. Some people are little living in some forgetful state of mind and therefore they are almost lost and therefore they are, going through this, sufferings. I mean, there is a famous line, written in Bhagavad Gita, that if you see the particle, the nature of the particle, this particle keeps pulling towards Earth with the force of gravitational, right? In the same way, we people are called the infinitesimal, right? And we are almost in the nature of pulling towards, the finite soul. The finite is the Brahman soul. So if you read the nature of Brahma, I mean, it is he's always in a blissful state, like he's living in an ocean of bliss. So this is our real nature. So this is what we have to, I mean, we have to restore, and that is only possible when you understand some realities, when you work upon your consciousness. And we have modes, we have procedures out here which are really helpful. So for this, I mean, we come to the question of yours. The question is, how the meditation could be really helpful, really attaining, this state of super consciousness, right? So I mean, let's understand it in a more simple language. I mean, for example, if you see, I mean, the way meditation works, I mean, and you compare it with how the psychologist, people work on the mind, you will find that both of them are doing the same thing, but their approaches are different. I mean, meditation is something where we are trying to train our mind in such a way where we are trying to, neutralize our emotions to the external factors. And we want to train and gain a certain mastery on that, that whatever happens to us, we are not going to be affected at all, right? So this is the first, you can say step that we, try to achieve through meditating process, right? Now if you compare it with the psychologist and their procedure of attaining, the state of bliss, then they are trying to suppress some part of their, brains. I mean, for example, if you study, I'm not an expert of psychology, but I do have some understanding about it. So when you see and how our brain works, then you will see that there are, prefrontal cortex and the frontal cortex. I mean, this part of a brain deals with, you can say, reasoning, analytical understanding, right? So this particular part of your brain works and helps you to do analytical kind of, exercise, right? I mean, if you read about our brain, I mean, there is a default system. This is called, default mode program. Now, what is this? And what's really interesting, one must know about it, is that, I mean, for example, there are few things which are not in our controls. For example, dreaming is not in our control. Secondly, thought process that you told in your previous part, that it is it is going on multiplications every single time, so it is also not in our control, right? But this is default mode program of our brain.
Right.
So something which is not in our control is categorized as DMP, default mode program. So work is likely to function in that way. So there is nothing in your hand and it will function in that way. Now we have prefrontal and the frontal cortex part of a brain, which deals with your analytical kind of practices. So when there is a certain kind of task which requires your analytical understanding or analysis, this particular brain or the part of the brain will act upon it and try to find a solution for you, right? Now there is parietal lobe also, which is also part of your brain. This parietal lobe has a different, little bit different functions. It is basically tells you your different identity, so it is there to tell you that you are different from other. So it helps you to make a distinguish between you from other people. So you can say it is somewhat kind of uh, an ignition towards making your ego more active. So I mean, ego is something we all know, that ego is something, your identity, which keeps you aloof, which keeps you separated from other, right? So what happens specifically when a meditative mind, tries to achieve that super conscious level or the conscious level, it actually tries to suppress these three, two or three parts of the brains. First is prefrontal cortex, the frontal cortex, and the parietal lobe. Once it is successful on its operation of suppressing of all these two or three parts of the brain, this particular mind attains that conscious level or a higher consciousness, because it then gets united with the universe. I mean, in other words, we can also start this response by asking a simple question: what is there as an obstacle before us that keeps hampering us from attaining that unity with the universe? Since we are the part of the universe, as we keep telling, earlier I also said that we are the part, infinitesimal part of the infinite soul, then what is still there, which is, which is holding me back to get attached with this, the infinite soul? So in the same way, when we try to understand it through the scientific way, we understand it that this is our ego. I mean, if you read Sigmund Freud and many other, psychologists, and their volume, writings on that, then you will find they are talking about ego, superego, and identity. So when you are trying to suppress your ego, you are actually trying to suppress your that particular part of your brain practice or activity, which is actually puts you away from other, and
Yes.
keeps giving you and keeps signaling you that you are different from other. Have you ever seen a patient suffering from schizophrenia? A person has a multiple kind of thought process working at a time, which keeps seizuring in a sense that comes up with different personality, in a sense that, I mean, always keeps on dividing things after things, and almost reaching to the point where he himself finds to be absolutely alone, right? So this is what this kind of this mental and the part of the mental works, and meditations comes here, which suppresses this. We can call it suppression of this particular functions of the brain, or you can say a control over this function.
They're just like
Yeah.
shedding the ego.
Yes, it's shedding the ego, you can say. So I mean, this is what I'm trying to say, is that when you have your ego, and which is almost in a more dominating form, in a more preponderance form, then in that way your ego will keep giving you a very separate identity, and it stops you so continuously from getting attached to this very unity concept, to the universe, right? And since you are not able to attach to the universe, since you are not able to attach with the reality, you are not in a state to be reaching to that high state of consciousness, as we have discussed right in the first question, that the only system or symptom of becoming of becoming super conscious or super conscious, it is then when you get united with the universe. So you are getting united with the universe could be understood with the sense that you are getting united with the people around you, right? So your ego goes dull. Secondly, your meditative mind takes a complete control over other part of your brain, and which keeps guiding it, and then in that way you become a master of your consciousness. So it is something, you can say, there are horses, and you have a rein of these horses in your hands. It is now up to you where you want these horses to drive you. You have seen that picture of Sri Krishna sit,
Yes,
Sri
yes.
Krishna, as
His
as
five
as a
horses are five
charioteer.
senses.
Yes, yes. So in the same way that this entire, our mind works, and our ego, suppressed with the help of meditation. So meditation is really really important. Apart from meditation, one more thing is also included as a part of a practice, a procedure, which helps us to reach to that very, height of consciousness, is that the devotion. Many people talk about devotion. I mean, meditation and devotions are not much different. However, devotion is much connected to the worshipping of God, whereas meditation is somewhere you are you are actually peeping into yourself, and it's an inward journey. So when you are going inside and trying to find out what lies in there, and with the help of this you are trying to hold or establish a connection with the universe, so that what is the consequences we find at the end of the
And
day after such.
what I believe is that you cannot actually meditate if you're not dedicated towards this. So you have to have devotion to this particular practice. And if you don't have any dedication to this practice of meditation,
Right.
you cannot reach there. So devotion is required to practice meditation.
Devotion is see, devotion is, but I would rather use the word discipline.
Hmm.
Because when you use the word devotion, it somewhere give us a feeling that we are going to hold a connection with some sort of supreme power.
Hmm.
Meditation is altogether a different. Meditation comes from the Patanjali, right?
Yes.
Patanjali, Maharishi Patanjali, and which basically Maharishi Patanjali is basically one of the 12th, you can say, schools of Hindu Vedanta, and this is what also rejects the authority of Vedanta. I mean, if you read, Maharishi Patanjali, he's talking about, he's talking about a connection of human soul with the soul which lies outside as a supernatural soul, right? So it actually gives us a consideration that there are two things, which means that works on dualities, whereas the six Vedas, which are basically certified Vedas, right, which actually are not talking about dualities, they are talking about non-dualities, right? So meditation works in that way. So we have meditation on the one side that helps us to experience this super consciousness, but it requires a certain disciplinary lifestyle. And once you follow this disciplinary lifestyle, you become able to reach to that particular position where you can enjoy that super consciousness level. And the second is the devotions. You go and worship some god, because the entire practice of devotion is a kind of disciplinary mode also. If you throw your a perfunctory glance on that, how a person becomes devotion, and what are all those routine activities that a person needs to go through. I mean, waking up early in the morning, and to be almost full of compassion and kind, and always be with a good thought process, and never do discriminations, and always be honest. What are all these things? These are basically concepts of dharma. I mean, DHRS, we have discussed many times before, right? So ultimately, devotion is also practice, but here you are submitting yourself, surrendering yourself to the lotus feet of a god, and you are almost giving your entire kind of, as a control to someone's hand whom you believe more. For example, the way Arjuna gave his control to the hand of Lord Shri Krishna, and he has surrendered to the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna. He only asked his question and then he responded, and that's how he become enlightened, right? In the same way, devotion works. Both the process and procedures are highly effective. In India, since we are pretty much kind of into worshipping nature, we go with the devotion, right? Many people do meditations to get to the super consciousness, because if you go and see and take a data right now, and take an experience by going door to door, finding out how many people are really devotional, then you will find in many of those people are highly enlightened and highly, enjoying that super consciousness, because they are also equal to the one who have done some meditative, practices in their lifestyle. Over to you.
And one more thing I would tell you, because I've done as I told you that I've been doing meditation for quite a long time. So I won't say that I've championed this art, but I've seen certain changes in myself, and this is the beauty of meditation, and then how a person can reach certain levels. So what changes I've seen in myself, although I've reached nowhere, but what I've seen and what other people say in me, the changes they have seen in me is that earlier I was very quarrelsome kind of person. I used to quarrel, I used to fight for no reasons, and I would always get very depressed, and I would always you can say I was very possessive kind of person earlier, and that's why I had these kind of issues in my life. But the moment I started practicing meditation, because I got to know, I came across a book which is actually written by my guru, and when I started going through that book, I understood what I should be doing and how I should be doing. And although I do my meditation right here at my home, I don't really go to the caves and jungles, because that's not
Ah,
possible.
this is awesome.
That's not practical actually, because we are job doers, and we are also running our own business. So it was quite difficult, but yes, then I started, and earlier it was quite difficult for me. I could sit only for 2 minutes, and then I extended it by 5 minutes, and I extended it by 10 minutes. Now I could sit for 45 minutes at a stretch. And what I've seen that I don't really feel like quarreling with anybody. I don't really
Oh,
feel uh, annoyed no matter what happens to me, and I don't really argue with anybody. I have become cool, calm, and composed, and I gave the whole credit to this practice and called meditation. I've seen major changes in myself, and for me, it is a major change, because a person who is not able to handle any, you can say, anything, like somebody is abusing, I would just then abuse and beat. This was the plus I would do, and I would always I was very argumentative, and now I don't really feel like arguing with anybody. I mean, I would just want people to be, I just want myself to be very quiet and very compassionate to people. And this is the change which I've seen, and this could only be brought through this meditation. One more thing I got to know about uh, this, it is just kind of, it is kind of meditation, but in different way, and that is called mindfulness. I've read a lot about mindfulness, especially in Zen philosophy. So they practice this kind of thing, I would say. They have got wall gazing, and then being mindful uh,
Mm.
at whatever thing you do. For example, if you are eating, you should be mindful of that particular
Yeah.
thing. I mean, you should not be eating with your mind, no, scattered. Mind is scattered. You should
So
be.
so that's what they are doing. I mean, that's what we have said. For example, since you said that being mindfulness is all about being focused on
Yes,
one particular task at hand, right? So it means it is against the diversion of mind. So
yes,
when your mind is engaged with one thing, so it is actually guided that it should be remain focused on that particular thing, and it should
yes,
not be divided in its
yes,
focus. And
yes.
that's how we reach to the super consciousness level, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
this is something which takes you there, and if you are eating, you should be fully focused on that particular thing. Only then you can enjoy that, and you can be with that particular thing. Otherwise, you may be eating, but this is not actually reaching a
Right.
body. And if you're talking to somebody, this is all also. Mindfulness also comes into play right here as well. When you are having conversation with somebody, should not
Right.
be talking with them or communicating with them with your mind scattered, because this is somewhere going to take the pleasure of communicating with the person, right?
Right.
This will take the whole pleasure, and you will not be able to leave that kind of impact on the person you are speaking to, and the person will also be feeling ignored and neglected if they're not paid full attention. So
Right.
this has been taught in Zen philosophy as well. I was just I came across, and I would love to share this experience with you as well. For example, uh, this is seen, especially people are very, you can say, very eager, and they just want to have the things very easily, and they want to be very powerful, they want to be super powerful, and for this they can even leave the guru they have been taught by, right? For example, this happened when Lord Buddha was going with his disciples, and one of them was Ananda. He was very, you can say,
Mm.
he was very, you can say, he loved. I mean, Lord Buddha loved him a lot, because he was always at his, at his service, and he
Mm.
was always doing the things which he actually preached. So
Mm.
he was going with his disciples, and they saw that there was a man actually, and they were going to cross the river, and across means they were going to cross the river through a boat, and they reached the boat, and they asked the person to sail them through or sail them across the river, and suddenly they saw another monk, and the monk was actually walking on the water. So,
Yeah.
those pupils who had been his pupil for a long time got
Mm.
fascinated by this particular power, I would say, of that particular monk, and they started following him. They suddenly went to him and then said that, "Oh, perfected one, we would like to be your disciple. Would you like to teach us this art? How long will it take us to learn this or to be perfect in this particular art?" He said that 5 years, if you do this on regular basis, So they said that this is too long a time and this is quite difficult for us. And then he said that I've been practicing it for 20 years and then I've been able to learn it. And then some other I realized that this is going to be quite difficult for me, for them. And they went back to Lord Buddha. And Lord Buddha said that for one particular power, you left me. Right. So this, what I'm talking about is there is no shortcut actually. You have to be
Yeah.
very much continuous. You have to be consistent actually, and
Correct.
you should not be doing something because you want to be super powerful. You want to attract people. So this was very fascinating story I came across. These teachings have been given in that Buddhism, and the other one I talked about mindfulness, that has been given in that Zen philosophy. Um, Next question I want to ask you is, do you think that when we practice gratitude and when we practice this mindfulness, we practice compassion in our daily life, are they going to contribute to a person's reaching that level called super consciousness?
Obviously. And why do I believe in this very approach of life? Not just because of it helps us to attain that super consciousness state of mind, but it makes our life easy. It makes our life more, sorted out. And this is not what I say. Many people I have seen whom we really worship, as we find them in some sort of divine form, because they have achieved something very miraculous in their life. Therefore, they are given this very title of someone who has been apotheosized a lot, not just by their actions, but the kind of preachings and the teachings they have done to the society. So, and one thing which I found common in all those people is that they are highly compassionate and they are pretty much of kind, and they, take life as an opportunity to not just elevate oneself, but to also distribute, opportunities among all possible candidates, so that all people could come out and experience the same. So this very approach of life is, you can say, is profit for all, is basically found in a few personalities, and these are those who are either be very devotional or reaching or have reached to that highest level of meditative practice, so that they could actually routinely practice in their life. And this is very common among many of the saints. I'm not talking about those artificial and self proclaimed saints. I'm talking about those who are literally saints, and they are the one who get acknowledgement across the globe, right? Because these people really give us a very strong preaching to all of us. Now, we need to understand how this compassion and being kind or being helpful to people can help us to reach that very state of super consciousness level. Everything has to be done with a scientific procedure, because this is just like the requirement of the today's youth. If we don't give the scientific conclusion or the explanation of the thing, I think things are not going to be taken with that much sincerity, right? So it's not very tough, by the way. For example, when you say you are compassionate with people, which also means that you are not going to be affected on trivial events that
Yes.
comes in your life. So which makes, which means a lot for a people like me who understand this. Because if you see today and ask yourself, and even we think to ourselves, what is that thing which really obstructs us from achieving the highest point of our life, is that our our way, or our, you can say, our inability or incompetency to handle those mundane events that comes to us. So when people become compassionate, when people become kind, they have agreed to one reality, is that they believe in sharing benefits with all.
Yes.
Moreover, they also believe in that when they are going to be anger or frustrated, then it is actually something which can be said, and treated and termed as a self goal. Because when you become angry, when you become frustrated on these banal incidents, you are actually consuming your own energy. And super consciousness, I mean, as a position, as a state, means that you or one should be having, you know, a great amount of energy stored in them. And when someone is going to be frustrated or lives their life in a more anger state, then the person is obviously likely to, fall apart very easily, likely to succumb very soon, right? Not before even reaching to the mid journey to the super consciousness, state, right? Because this super consciousness state is something which is a very a bigger target. I mean, if you compare it with a kind of a scenario where 11 players are fighting and battling for a very big target, right? That the opponent has set up against them, that all these 11 players have to play very consciously. And there will be then, you can, I mean, slangs as a part of the game is what happens in order to, divert the mindset of the people, right? And a player who is stoic and only focused on the target, and he is not going to be withered away with all these kinds of nuances, then there is a probability that he may reach to the target, or he may help other 10 players to reach to the target. Just because of one thing he was able to do is that he was able to maintain his overall mindset. He was able to
Composer,
maintain,
yes.
yeah, composer, right? So in this way we can establish a relationship between being compassionate and kind, and it's helpful as a journey, or it's as a facilitating mode which helps us to reach to the super conscious level, because super consciousness is something a very lofty target. Like someone needs to climb up the Mount Everest. So one who
Yes.
is trying to climb up the Mount Everest, the person needs to be very much thoughtful about energy and its proper use. So it's not going to be used for unnecessary things. It's not going to be like pilferage of this energy. So the same way, the rule is applicable here. So that's what I have to say. Over to you.
One more thing I would love to say is, for example, as you mentioned about this, can say that you have to be compassionate towards people, and those and the people who are so-called, you can say, gurus and so-called preachers, if they haven't really attained that height, they will be throwing tantrums for on petty matters, I would say. And the person who has attained that heightened existence, the person who has achieved that supreme, I would say, stage, then they will not be throwing tantrums. They don't actually get angry on
Yeah.
trivial matters, because they have learned that expressing anger on these unimportant thing is of no use. They have
Right.
understood. And one more thing that they have understood is, they do one more thing, that they see God in everybody. Once a person who starts seeing God in everybody, then know that they have reached that state, because
Right.
it is said that in everybody lives a molecule of God. And that the person may not be God himself, but there is a particle of God. That's why this body is actually alive. And once this particle leaves the body, that particle is nothing, none other than the soul itself, right?
Right.
And
Right.
once the soul leaves the body, the person is no more alive.
Yeah.
And this is what what can help a person understand or realize that certain person is so-called and a real one. They always see God. They always, in everybody, whether it's living or you can say non-living. They see God in everybody and everything, and they're always compassionate. There is, you cannot see that these people have you can say expressed anger for anybody on anything. And one more thing they are endowed with, that
Right.
they, if you are in those people's orbit, you will never feel negative energy.
Yeah, the
You
vibrations
always
were
feel,
strong enough.
yes, the vibrations
Strong.
will tell you that the person is actually the realized one, the actuated one, right? And when this happens, when a person reaches that particular level called super consciousness, right? They become they become a different kind of personality. They can easy this these traits set them apart from the ordinary people, right? So, and this state can be achieved only when you start practicing these common and very they might seem to be very very ordinary, but they are actually very big in nature, because these if you practice these things you can reach that particular level. If you practice kindness, which is quite difficult, especially in these days, when somebody says something about you, people start you can say
Correct.
throwing the tantrums for no reason. And this is what stops them from realizing themselves and realizing their true nature. And they, if they can shed this ego, they can uh, you can free themselves from the ego. They can also realize themselves and their reality. And they can practice certain other things, like they can practice discipline in their lives. They can practice restraint, or they have to be self-restraint at certain times. For example, um, this is said in even Patanjali, and this has been taught by many gurus, and you can say even in the religious books, it has been said that uh, you have to keep yourself, under your control, because when it comes to eating, let's take the example of eating. It is very common. If you are picking out on the things you've been served, this is not actually you cannot reach that level, because this shows that you have no control over yourself, you have no discipline at all. And when you eat a lot, then you will be feeling very sleepy, and when you become sleepy,
Right.
then you cannot actually concentrate on anything, because your mind will always be in that mode where you cannot
Right.
focus on anything. So if these things are practiced, and when meditation is done with the right process, and right, what is the right process, that you have to keep yourself away from people, because this is the reality of meditation. If you are sitting among the people, they're talking, and the doorbell is ringing, the phone is ringing, other people are calling you, you cannot actually concentrate. So you have to be at a place where you can be by yourself. And this is this is where you can sit in meditation, and then you can realize that what who you are and what you are actually. Generally, we don't realize ourselves. It is said that when you sit in meditation, you either focus on the breathing, or you focus on the mantra chanting, or you focus on certain you can say point which is there in your mind, right? You see
Mm.
some objects, and you focus on that, and then you forget about each other each and everything, right? This
Correct.
is how you realize who you really are. Otherwise, if your mind is always scattered, and if your mind is is deviating
Diverted.
from,
Yeah.
deviating from this particular this particular practice, then you can never reach that state. So these
Right.
are the things which can be taken, which can be taken into account while practicing. And reaching that particular state is a very daunting task, but many people have realized, the realized ones have realized, and many such people are still living on this planet. So this state can be achieved, but a person has to be very very self-disciplined, right? So
Right.
these are the things which we had to discuss. And now the audience must have got to know what super consciousness is all about, what consciousness is, and how this state can be achieved, although
And,
are not qualified enough.
and one more thing I want to add to sum up this video. You might have heard, and many people might have experienced this, that why do many people have a different viewpoint towards certain aspects of life, which found to be really strange for many. For example, if you ask 90 people out of 100, what is their you can say take on money in terms of its significance in life, then 90% of the total will end up saying that there is nothing bigger than money in life. But there is also 10% category of people who come out with a different viewpoint. And it is not just 10%, and it is not just associated with money. There are many aspects of life where we can see this division in opinions. And
Yes.
why it is so, just because of there is a particular, you can say, a mechanism that actually works within us, and the
Yes.
mechanism is called ego, mind, and intellect. I
Yes.
mean, by nature we are egoistic,
Yes.
and there is nothing like a duality as a suspicion on this particular fact that by nature we are egoistic. Now people who are governed only by their ego and with the help of the mind, then they are becoming more kind of, you can say, involved and overindulgent, specifically in their in their hedonistic lifestyle. They are becoming more kind of personalities who believe in taking much enjoyment in life, and these are the same people who see life not more than a material, so like,
For them,
so
life
these
is
are the
all
people.
about having fun.
Yes, but on the other side, the person who has a great hold over their intellect, and this is the intellect that guides their ego and the mind,
Yes.
then these people have their different views towards life. And this is how our life, I mean, seems to be. I mean, for example, for many people, I mean, the life is like very beautiful, and for many people life is becoming more like a suffering. It is all about how you train your intellect and how you let your intellect drive your ego, right? So this is all happens just because of with the help of this intellect power. So if you can regulate your intellect, if you can strengthen your intellect and give much, you can say, reliance on the intellect, and let the intellect drive your ego and the mind, there is a greater possibility that your overall result in your life would be even more positive. I mean, I will sum up with one example. We people by nature are lethargic, very lazy,
Yes.
and we really don't find much interest in doing works, but we still do work, right? We do it just because of it is a clear signaling from the intellect that if we don't do work, that will be really difficult for us to survive on this planet.
Yes.
I mean, fittest, I mean, survival for the fittest is what is the basic proverb that people follow. So this
Hmm.
is how do we, deal with this intellect, because the intellect knows everything. And therefore we continue to work hard even when the things are going against us. And in the most challenging situations, we come out and also try harder as much as possible. Just because we know that even when we are feeling bad, even when we are feeling even gloomy, and we are becoming completely dispassionate, but still it is just because of it is a requirement, otherwise you are not going to survive. We continue to do hard work. So that's the power of the intellect. So therefore I say to all our audience, try to train your intellect and give much reliance to your intellect, and let your intellect run and govern your ego and the mind, and then you will see a difference in your lifestyle. Over to you.
And one more thing I would love to say is that we are not qualified enough to have a discussion on this topic, but we shared
Yeah.
whatever we know and whatever we have done so far and whatever we have read about it, right?
Right.
So with this, I'm gonna end this video and we are gonna come up with a very interesting topic to discuss. And this is something which is going to be very, very informative for the audience, and they'll be getting benefited if they put the things
Right,
we've
right,
discussed into practice. Right. Till then,
right.
I'm taking a leave. See you.
Good night. Bye.